With Tom Cruise bringing the Mission Impossible films to a close, at least for now, it's time to stop and rank all of the movies in this series to this point. Like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, and if you are new to the channel, check it out and let me know what you think. Let's dive into a ranking of the Mission Impossible films. Coming in at last place, was it ever going to be anything else? Mission Impossible 2. This is the one movie in this franchise that I will say is just objectively bad. I know it has some defenders nowadays who've said, like, you know, it's very slow in the beginning, it's very awkward because it changes tones halfway throughout, it doesn't quite mesh with the rest of the series. But people have tended to say lately that at least the action in the back half of the film is very, very exciting, which I say it's terrible. I think the action in the end is clunky, it's just weird and awkward. That motorcycle like jump where they jump into each other looks ridiculous. I don't buy any of it. The one cool thing about this movie is the knife stunt, because I mean, that was all real. Cruise put that knife like a millimeter from his eyeball, which is just insane to do. But I don't enjoy this movie. This is the one Mission Impossible movie I don't own because I don't like it. It's not fun to go back and rewatch, and I just think it is a bad movie overall. In at number 7 is the most recent entry in this series, The Final Reckoning. Listen, there's a big jump from 2 to where this spot is now. This movie's fun. It's a fun, entertaining action movie. Cruise pulls out all the stops for the final act with the stunt work and the action sequences for what is supposed to be the final film in this franchise. That is yet to be seen. But the first half of this movie is so unbelievably clunky and just poorly written. It's very slowly paced, but not enjoyable. And it does this thing where it recaps everything we've already been told in the film prior and just dumps exposition after exposition after exposition, and it doesn't do it in a particularly enjoyable way. And I think in terms of being a send-off to this entire franchise in general, there's too much fan servicey moments. There's too much of like them making Ethan Hunt like this Christ-like figure, and it just makes this film feel more surreal than based in reality than the rest of these movies feel. And so the send-off that it's aiming for, I don't believe quite hits in the end, because half of this movie is just so poorly put together. And so for that, I have to put it second to last. And there is a full review of this film on my channel as well. If you want to see, go check it out. In at number 6 is Mission Impossible 3. Again, this movie's not bad in any sense. It's a great, exciting action film. It's just, there's so many good movies in this franchise that some of these films are going to come towards the bottom, and that's just, it is what it is. This movie starts to kind of give us a look at what this series is going to become in the future. As mediocre as I believe J.J. Abrams is as a director, he does do a great job with this film, just putting in some exciting action sequences, making this film into this bigger blockbuster franchise that it is today. And I think, honestly, this film boasts this franchise's best villain, arguably, with Philip Seymour Hoffman taking those reins, and he does an incredible job playing opposite Tom Cruise. And this film really gets into some very personal, smaller moments that are great. When we get introduced to Ethan's wife and like his life outside of his work, it's fantastic. Benji gets introduced in this film and he becomes a mainstay in the franchise. I just don't feel like this movie is as creative as it thinks it is, which is oftentimes J.J. Abrams' problem. And I just think this movie, it gets weighed on negatively just because of the movies that come after it, because they're so much more grand and spectacle and just so much more exciting to watch. But this movie, all in all, is very good. In at number 5, we have the original Mission Impossible from 1996. I put this over 3 just because I think it is kind of cool to go back and just get a more grounded and personal story. This whole film is about Ethan being betrayed and deceived by Phelps, who's his commanding officer, and him unraveling this mystery and conspiracy about Phelps trying to get wealthy and, screw over the people around him. And I just think that's fun and interesting. And it's more of a noir spy thriller in that regard, which I think is cool because it is definitely different than the rest of this franchise for sure, which become these, bigger action set piece, focused films. So I think it's cool just to go back and see where this movie started. And I think the writing for this film is incredible. I know a lot of people didn't love it at the time because the plot in the narrative is overly complicated with all of the pieces falling into place and all the twists and turns. I think that's the best part of this film. It leaves you guessing. Even when I rewatch this, I always forget, okay, what happens here? What happens next? And I think it's a fantastic rewatch because of that factor. The cast is great. Luther comes in with Cruz as a staple of this franchise in this film as well. Sure, the CGI is kind of wonky towards the end, but this movie was made in 1996. All around, it's a very, very fun spy film. In at number 4 is Ghost Protocol. I know a lot of people have this as their number 1. I'm not sure what the reasoning is. It's just never been one of my top 3. I do love it, and it's an exciting movie. The whole climbing around the Burj Khalifa is insane that Cruise actually did that and just sat at the top of it without any safety equipment or harnesses on, which is just nuts in my opinion. But this movie is chock full of fun, crazy action sequences like that. We get introduced to Jeremy Renner's character, Brant, who's an exciting addition. It sucks that he never came back because of the Avengers scheduling conflicts and wanting to spend time with his daughter and things like that. I wish they would have sent him off in the final reckoning as well, but whatever. I think where this movie falls down for me is in its villains. I don't find the whole Russian villain arc very particularly interesting. They're all just kind of cookie cutter, over-the-top Russian villains, in my opinion, and I think that's why this one falls flat a little bit for me. But it is still a very fun movie, and I love the setting being in Abu Dhabi and everything. I think it's great, and it kind of takes this franchise more global, which is just builds upon what this franchise becomes in the future. But it is still a very, very fun movie. At number 3 is Dead Reckoning. This could change because I've only seen this movie once, I think. I haven't rewatched it since the theater. I was planning on going back and doing so, but I think the action in this film is incredible. It had been a while, I feel like, since we had a Mission Impossible movie, and with the pandemic and everything, I just feel like it took forever for this movie to come out. And once it did, it was just so exciting getting back to the movies and seeing this. So honestly, that has a lot to do with my love for this film. But I think adding in people like Haley Atwell was a great addition. I think trying to take this franchise into this new world that we're all transitioning into with AI and how that could affect everyone's lives and what does it mean if that AI becomes sentient. I think those are all creative, incredible ideas that were set up in this film. Unfortunately, I don't think they were paid off very well in the finale in Final Reckoning, but regardless, I think those are all very creative ideas. I love the one-handed driving chase sequence, the train, jumping off the cliff, fighting on top of the train. There's so many fun sequences in this film, and I think this one also allows the teams to utilize their skill sets in pretty creative and fun ways, which Final Reckoning doesn't do. This movie could drop on my list once I go back and rewatch it, but for now, this sits at number 3. At number 2, we have Rogue Nation, which does 2 awesome things, in my opinion. Introduces us to Ilsa Faust, who's incredible. I think she's the best female protagonist in this whole franchise. It sucks they killed her off in the last one. I really love her as not only Ethan's teammate, but possible love interest. I know it's very vague in this universe with Cruz and his love interest because, I don't know, I guess there's something with Scientology where they don't want him kissing women on screen or whatever, what have you. I don't give a shit. But she is my favorite female in this universe. And it introduces us to Solomon Lane, who's, I believe, the second best antagonist in this whole franchise, who creates the Syndicate, which is the anti-IMF, the rogue nation of assassins who are terrorizing the world. And it's great, and it leads into some really fun action sequences. The finale when they capture Lane in the glass box is great. There's so many twists and turns during that whole sequence. This is by far, I think, the best team, where we have Ilsa, we have Benji, we have Luther, and we have Brant, which is like the all-star team in this universe, I think. And it just leads to some really great character moments. I think the writing and directing is phenomenal. It's a fantastic film. Topping the list at number 1, and not just this list, but this is one of my favorite movies of all time, is Fallout. This was the movie that introduced me to this franchise, which is crazy. I had never really seen any of these growing up. I didn't know anybody that were fans of these films, so I thought they were just kind of like these ridiculous action movies like Fast and Furious. And boy, was I really, really wrong. I saw this movie in theaters by myself because the reviews were just insane for it, and I was like, alright, there's got to be something to these movies. And then I went back and watched all the rest of them, and I've been a huge fan of this franchise ever since. This movie, I think, has Cruise's best performance as this character. I love the team. My only negative of this movie is that we couldn't get Renner back as Brant. It would have been great. I know he didn't want to come back because he said that they were going to kill him off almost immediately, which sucks. They should have just brought him back. Kill him, sure, but like at least let him be in the entire film first. We get Henry Cavill as August Walker. Henry Cavill, in my opinion, does not get cast in enough big, prominent roles. He's a great actor. And he's fantastic as this just skeevy syndicate agent who's undercover with the CIA and just a piece of garbage trying to infiltrate this team. And I love how they like screw him around so much, and he just gets like so over the top, like pissed off about everything. It's great. He plays this villain part so well, which is a great turn for Henry Cavill. And we get Solomon Lane back, who again I think is probably the second best antagonist in this series behind Philip Seymour Hoffman. And the action is fantastic. The helicopter chase through the mountains, the Cruise jumping across rooftops, running through London, breaking his ankle while doing it. It's all great. And I think we really get the build-up of him and Ilsa's relationship here. And I wish they would have continued this going forward. But this movie is incredible. I highly, highly recommend it. And it is my favorite film in this franchise, by far. So that's it for my ranking of this franchise, of these Mission Impossible films. If you liked it, definitely let me know. Comment down below. Let me know what your favorites are, and check out the rest of the channel to see more reviews, trailer reactions, etc. And I'll catch you next time.